Hello Internet, and welcome to RetroNick Relics, the retro video game show where I give you my 2-bit opinion on these 8 through 32-bit relics. Today, we're going to knock out 2 birds with 1 stone, because we're talking about...
Welcome to Splatterhouse.
Yes, Splatterhouse, a Namco arcade classic from 1988 whose horrifying themes may be inappropriate for young children and cowards. Splatterhouse is a side-scrolling beat-em-up where you play as Rick Taylor, a parapsychology major who escaped to the West Mansion from a thunderstorm with his girlfriend Jennifer. Jennifer gets taken hostage by the Lovecraftian horrors who dwell there, who leave Rick for dead. Soon, Rick is beckoned by the Terror Mask.
That in no way, shape, or form resembles any popular movie franchises or characters of the time, so don't even think of sending in a cease and desist.
The mask revitalizes Rick and grants him superhuman strength to forge ahead and rescue Jennifer. Spoiler, she doesn't make it.
Hey yo, what the f?
Look pal, it's been 30 years. If you think that's annoying, get a load of this.
I am your father.
You are not the father.
But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the gameplay. Splatterhouse is a very simple game with somewhat limited mechanics. The D-pad makes you walk and crouch, button 2 punches or kicks, and button 1 jumps. You can do a sliding kick across the ground by hitting forward plus attack at the moment you land, but I can never get the precise timing down to make it work on purpose. The environments in Splatterhouse are a little bit plain, losing a lot of the bloody details from the arcade original. Still, they definitely have the feel of a house where a mad scientist experiments have run amok. Chained ghouls throw up poisonous vomit at you. Zombified hounds will pass up an opportunity to attack to feast on their fallen comrades. And you can bash rotten corpses dangling from the ceiling like they were bloated meat piñatas. Or defenseless old ladies. There are also various weapons that appear for Rick to pick up that add some variety to the gameplay. The 2x4 is probably the most satisfying to use since you can splatter
He said it!
baddies against the back wall. There is also the golden meat cleaver that only appears for the boss fight on stage 4 and is actually a palette swap of the first weapon you pick up in the arcade version. The wrench, rock, and spear are good for single-use ranged attacks, but the most powerful weapon is the shotgun on stage 3. There are 2 of these to pick up in the entire game, and you'll definitely want to conserve your ammunition by doing the shotgun shuffle, a technique where you pick up the next shotgun by dropping the previous one, kicking enemies when you can, and only shooting when it's absolutely necessary until you reach the boss. Speaking of bosses, for a game with relatively unimaginative gameplay, it has some pretty creative boss fights. The boss of stage 3 is Biggie Man, who has chainsaw blades for hands and is way easier to kill if you can pull off the aforementioned shotgun shuffle. There's stage 1's flesh-eating boar worms, a franchise mainstay, and my personal favorite, stage 2's haunted room, where a poltergeist has haunted the furniture and throws knives and other assorted objects at Rick. There are also a few alternate paths in certain stages where the difficulty is ramped up as a punishment for missing a jump, getting knocked down a hole, or being grabbed by an evil specter. These segments are pretty easy to avoid, but really difficult to get through if you fall into one, especially the necromancer sequence. There are a lot of notable changes between the arcade, PC Engine, and TurboGrafx 16 versions as well, but that's not why you tuned in.
Here comes a new challenger!
Splatterhouse Chrome is the first known ROM hack for Splatterhouse, and I hate it.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Okay, maybe that's not fair. Perhaps I'm just used to the nice, even pace of the original with one-hit kills on most enemies and limited platforming, because this game is hard. Stupid hard. The original PC Engine and TurboGrafx 16 ports of Splatterhouse had a nice, even difficulty curve that eased you in. However, Chrome assumes you've been here before, It gets straight to business. The first thing you'll notice is that Rick is wearing the terror mask from the original Japanese version. And the whole Stage 1 layout has been changed to include some platforming and an alternate path. The gore factor has also been ramped up, with the original arcade cleaver making a return to Stage 1. A delightful spurt of blood now erupts from your victims when you hack their heads off, which is fabulous. But I don't mean to gush. Enemies that previously took 1 to 2 hits to defeat now take 2 to 4 hits, and there are a lot more of them, with baddies leaping all over the screen erratically. Other details have been added, such as enemies walking around the background and foreground to confound you. Hunks of gore are now stuck to the spikes, and they skipped Stage 2's intro for some reason, and you just go from 1 to 3 with no boss in between. Oh, and remember that sidekick maneuver I mentioned? The one that's like impossible to do on purpose? Well, you have to do it on Stage 3 to avoid the newly introduced suspended spinning blades. This is basically as far as I've gotten, but I can tell from the attract mode there's other cool stuff going on. Wow, that is awesome. So, what do I think? The original Splatterhouse is a classic for anyone who's interested in the origins of horror games and beat-em-ups in general. It's a little bit basic as far as mechanics and graphics go, but it's always been a game that relied more on spectacle than anything else, which is why it's left a very distinctive mark on the history of video games. I give Splatterhouse on the TurboGrafx 16 and PC Engine 8 satisfyingly splattered monsters out of 10. As for Splatterhouse Chrome, the best thing it has going for it is that it's more classic Splatterhouse, and a greater challenge for folks who want a game that's more on par with the punishing games of its time, such as Ninja Gaiden or Contra. That's why I'm giving Splatterhouse Chrome 6 cheap bullshit deaths out of 10. So yes, I would highly recommend playing through the original and then giving Chrome a try if you decide you want something a little bit more challenging. Be sure to check out friend of the show youtube.com/Vito to catch his live streams and original comedy bits like Pepsi for Peace or when he vaped Belle Delphine's bath water at youtube.com/Vito. You can also listen to the Biggest Problem in the Universe podcast at biggestproblem.show. Thank you all so much for watching RetroNick Relics. That's all for this time around, but please be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons and tune in again to find out what I dig up next. I'm RetroNick.
And you'd be too if you were me.